Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes. We are previewing every single football game involving SEC teams this year, including the ones against FCS teams, which we have two of this week. In this one, we will discuss Florida hosting Eastern Washington. We cannot find a line on this anywhere. Jeff Sagarin with the home field has got Florida as a 31-point victor in this one. The Gators, of course, had a near miss in Knoxville. Anthony Richardson threw a pick on the last play of the game after Florida nearly had a miracle comeback to win in Knoxville. And Eastern Washington also just missed beating a ranked team, albeit an FCS-ranked team. It lost 38-35 to Montana State the week before. Eastern Washington's absolutely obliterated. I guess not the week before, 2 games before. Oregon beat Eastern Washington 70-14. Eastern Washington had a bye week since then to get ready for Montana State, showed up much better. But Blake, Florida looked better than it did against South Florida. Don't know where the Gators' bar of expectation and motivation is for this one. But regardless, we'll see what happens when they get to Saturday in a game that Florida should win pretty easily.
Yeah, and I mean, as we said, I was impressed with Florida against Tennessee that they did a lot of things well and, had their opportunities, couple things, a couple big plays here or there. And, we're talking about a different result. And all of a sudden our opinion has maybe swung completely on Florida just based off of Anthony Richardson's performance. Looked much better. And, yeah, I think what's interesting about this game is we said, for Florida against South Florida, right? We said, all right, this is kind of one of those games. Florida should come out and take care of business. Or, is there a bit of that possible hangover, right? In terms of looking ahead. But I think the difference here is now you kind of look at this and, Florida plays Missouri in the next game after that. And I don't know that that's necessarily a look ahead game at this point based on what we've seen from Missouri thus far. So you would think, as I mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that Florida can take away from that Tennessee game, put it into action here against Eastern Washington, come out of this one feeling really good about itself, heading into a very winnable SEC game next week.
Yeah, by the way, kickoff of this one is going to be noon Eastern. You can see that on the SEC Network Plus or ESPN Plus. In other words, that is a streaming only. It's not on your normal cable package. You have to get that in the app. When Eastern Washington has the ball, Blake, Eastern Washington averages 28.3 points a game, Florida giving up 29.5. Eastern Washington averaging 6.7 yards a pass, Gators giving up 7.9 per throw. Eastern Washington averages 4.2 yards a carry, Florida giving up 4.9. Of course, last week, Talkington, 16 of 26, 201, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So it looks like the passing game got a little better last week. And Eastern Washington runs 29 times for 5.1 yards a carry against, again, what is a good FCS team. I don't know how you begin to really make a comparison here, but those are the numbers. We would like to see Florida's defense play a little better maybe than it has the last 2 weeks, although to judge Florida for giving up a bunch of yards to Hendon Hooker in Knoxville would be a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think, there's not a lot of people that can stop Tennessee by any means. And so I don't think giving up some big plays to them is a big, deficiency in any way, shape, or form. And again, I don't think you're going to be challenged offensively the way you were in the game against Tennessee. I like you said, how do you draw a good conclusion or comparison on Eastern Washington? They lose to Oregon 70-14 on the road. This game's on the road. Another, good environment here, at the Swamp and early kickoff, those kind of things. But, or do you kind of gauge what they did against Montana State, and I think it's like, I don't know. I'm more to lean towards the Oregon type situation here. I don't think this is going to be 70-14 or anything like that, but I do think Florida's defense up front, those are the kind of things we talk about in games like this where, Florida's able to get some, some pressure in the backfield and and do those kind of things. Really, I think force Eastern Washington to throw the ball. I mean, again, if you want to draw any sort of comparison, if you go to the Oregon game, they only passed for 87 yards. And remember, that's in a game where they're trailing big the entire time, and yet they're still not able to get anything going passing wise. So, again, this is all we have to go on. But that's something to think about heading into this one against the Florida team. Like I said, I think Florida's mindset is probably the biggest thing here to me. Do they just kind of, come in lackadaisical and kind of had that, okay, we almost had a chance. We should have won, maybe, we feel like, against Tennessee. We had a chance to make our big statement. We lost. We come out a little sluggish. Maybe you see some opportunities for Eastern Washington early, but I still think the Florida defense has a chance to control this one.
Yeah, and one more thing before we talk about the other side of the matchup. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll save that. We've got some big games coming up this week to add a little extra excitement. We at Southeastern 14 are making some predictions in the Stakes app. We want to hear from you guys if you agree or disagree with our takes. So go to playwithstakes.com/14. That is STAKES. Sign up for Stakes. Put your predictions on our games, whether you're with us or against us, and we'll have those in Monday or Tuesday. Use the invite code Southeastern14. You'll get a double welcome bonus. Free to sign up, free to play. You can win stuff. What's the downside? You have a lot of fun. You can rub it in our noses if you beat us. Sign up for Stakes today and have some fun there. Okay, the other side of the ball is kind of interesting. Florida is scoring 27.3 points a game. Eastern Washington giving up 45.7. Again, a lot of that because of that Oregon game. Yards per play, Florida averaging 7.1 on passing. Eastern Washington giving up 8.1 yards per rush. Florida averaging 5.5. Eastern Washington giving up 5.6. Maybe one thing of interest if you can find a line in your betting, I do wonder how Florida handles quarterback. Anthony Richardson was better. Their backup situation is a little shaky, I think. They've got a conference game with Missouri next week. Do you see Florida kind of take its foot off the gas? And even if it does it matter given the way Eastern Washington is giving up points?
I mean, the only issue I would have with that is you saw what happened against South Florida. Um, I mean, it's not like it's a situation where we've just seen Florida come out and just put teams away thus far. So now they've had a tough schedule. Don't get me wrong, because I mean they played Utah, Kentucky, Tennessee, plus that South Florida game. But again, I think that's what you probably want to see more than anything here. If you're Florida's offense, you want to see them come out and just let's put up points. Like let's get a lot of points early. I'm not saying they're going to put up 42 in the first half like Oregon did against Eastern Washington, but I mean, that's what you want to see, I think, from Florida is you want to see that ability to put the foot on the gas and just go, because you didn't get that against South Florida. I think that's look, pretty much every game Florida played at this point has been close. And one of those games should not have been close. We talked about it. I don't think the South Florida game should have been close, but it was. And I think that's what you want to see here more than anything. If you're Billy Napier, you want to see your guys come out and do exactly what you should do. You're better at a lot of skill positions. And I think offensively, you need to build off of what you did against Tennessee. And I think that's keeping your guys in there with a chance to just keep doing that, keep momentum going. Because look, this is a big stretch for Florida. 3 straight home games here: Eastern Washington, Missouri, LSU. A big opportunity. And I think coming out and still getting the flow of that offense going would be the biggest thing they could do in this game for me. So I don't think there's any. Yes, I understand what you're saying. You're not going to have him in there if you're up 42 to nothing, in the third quarter. But I think those are the kind of things you really want to strive for if you're Florida.
Yeah, as we wrap this up, I'm not sure this is a vintage Eastern Washington team. It was ranked 15th in the FCS poll coming into last week. Jeff Sagarin had, I think, them somewhere around the 150s. For lack of a better idea, I'll kind of go along with Sagarin's spread, which should be 31 points with the home field. I'll go Florida 54, Eastern Washington 20.
Yeah, I think Florida should win this going away. I'm terrible at picking scores, as I say every time. I think Florida would probably win this by 30 plus. So I don't know. I'll go 52 to 10. I'll go with that. Florida 52 to 10. So.
Okay, we are previewing every game involving SEC teams. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.